highlights channel of the Ranveer Show. This is TRS Clips. What is Sanatan Dharma?
Sanatan Dharma.
I also want to say, before I let you begin, is that, and I hate saying this online, but because of the political climate of our times, even the word Sanatan Dharma is a dangerous word to use on the internet for a mainstream brand like myself. And that's so sad. I mean, I know what Sanatan Dharma is. I'm asking for the sake of the podcast and to obviously increase my knowledge about it. But I've literally been advised by media professionals not to say the word Sanatan Dharma because it'll term me as right-wing. Just let me live, guys.
The opponents of Dharma have always been there, regardless of which age we live. Even in Satyuga, there were opponents of Dharma. Even in Treta Yuga, when Bhagwan Sri Ram came, there were opponents of Dharma. In Dwapar Yuga, Bhagwan Shri Krishna had to re-establish Dharma because people were hell-bent on destroying Dharma. And today in the Kali Yuga, you cannot say the word Dharma without someone jumping down our neck and calling us names.
You know, I'm literally told I'll lose brand associations if I say the word Sanatan Dharma.
There is a deep core of Sanatan Bharat that wants to hear the word Sanatan and understand it. That live it in their heart but are afraid to say it on their lips. This conversation and conversations like these is intended to empower those Bharatiyas.
Okay. One caveat I want to just place here is that while we're talking about Sanatan Dharma, I hope that it's clear that we're not anti any religion. Okay? Because the one thing that I do know about Sanatan Dharma is that it's extremely subjective, based on the life experiences and the mindset of the practitioner of Sanatan Dharma. The one thing that I've learned about Sanatan Dharma for me, and of course this might be a trickle down of my own personality into my understanding of Sanatan Dharma, but I believe in universal love even more than I believe in my land and my own culture. If I'm talking about Sanatan Dharma, it doesn't mean that I'm looking down upon Islam or Christianity or Judaism or Sikhism or Buddhism or Jainism or anything like that. I was born into a Sanatani family. I'm just trying to understand my own roots better with respect for all other faiths and not thinking that my faith is better or worse than any other faith.
And, you know, because I work in banking, one of the nice things about banking, which I really enjoy, I love what I do for work, is that we are very precise in our use of language. If something is, say, if we're talking about growth, then we know exactly what is meant by growth. There's no distinction between percent and percentage points. It's very clear that this is what it is. If we are talking about profit, it is exactly clear what it is. If we're talking about costs, it's exactly clear what it is. So the first thing that we need to do in this discussion is define our terms. So before we go into the philosophy of it as well, Sanatan means eternal. Dharma comes from dharyate iti dharma. That which upholds, that which allows things to be, enables things to be their essential nature is dharma. And in Sanatan Dharma, the idea is that the essential nature of everything that is manifest, every person, every being, every situation is divine. That there is an underlying divine consciousness that is both soaked through in this manifest creation that we see and also independent from it. It's almost like this creation is a projection on the screen that is this reality. This reality is called Brahman in its unmanifest form. So Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan has its meaning, which is eternal, timeless. Dharma, dharyate iti dharma. And religion comes from the Latin word which means to reconnect. So sometimes when we use words in English, they lose their essential meaning. Yeah. So say for example, if we take the manifestation of religion today, non-dharmic religions, okay, which are born outside of India, have a similar structure. Obviously, they have great depth of their own. They've got their own approaches towards the inner space and so on. But there's a broad structure that is relatively um, replicable in some ways, which is that there's a prophet, there is a book, there is a series of sort of directives, and there is a theology around that, around the meaning of life, who is the divine, how to connect with the divine, what are the meditative processes. So there are relatively bounded elements. Okay. Sanatan Dharma is not like that. Sanatan Dharma is, I visualize Sanatan Dharma as like a mother with open arms that embraces her children in all of their manifestations. So in Sanatan Dharma, we have multiple different theologies. And not only do they coexist, but they recognize the validity of others. What does that mean? Within Hinduism, we have a theology that is called Vaishnavism, which says Vishnu is supreme. Within that, we will have people who say Krishna is supreme. Within that, we will say people who have Ram is supreme. Then you have another separate one, Shaivism. Shiva is supreme. You have a separate one, which is Shaktism, Shaktapath. It says Devi is supreme. But they are not sitting here at war with each other. Why? Because all of those multiple different theologies, not the best word in the world because it's got its own connotations, but we are speaking English, so we use it.
Limitations of the English language.
Exactly. All of these different theologies are connected by the Vedas and a wider body of Hindu scripture that includes the Upanishads, Puranas, and Itihasas. And all of these different theologies will buy into those. And as a result, they are nourished by it. And because this is a dharma of principles, not a religion of rules, those principles have been re-established over and over again based on the time and period. In the Treta Yuga, we needed a Rama to come. In the Dwapar Yuga, we needed a Shri Krishna to come. Our religion survives and remains connected to its foundational Vedic principles because we have the ability to regenerate. Otherwise, what attacks Hindu Dharma, Sanatan Dharma has faced, how much has been destroyed. I said Shaivism, Vaishnavism, Ganapatya, Shakti part, there's Saurya part. See, Surya is the supreme. That what is left of that now is Chhat Puja that happens in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh and that part of the country. And there used to be great Surya temples. Konark in Orissa, Modera in Gujarat, Martand in Kashmir. But lost over time. There is, of course, the Surya worship. I've also learned the puja when I was in Kerala.
You said the phrase "so much has been destroyed." The phrase that drops into my head the moment I hear that is "so much will be rebuilt." I think in our lifetimes. I think by people like us, our generation of Sanatanis. Not to feed my own ego or your ego or our ego through this. I just feel it's Sanatani duty, almost, to rebuild things.
When we serve Dharma, Dharma nourishes us. Dharma protects us. People ask me, you're doing Dharma Raksha. I said, me? I don't have the ability to stand in front of Dharma and say, I am a Rakshak. I am doing Dharma Seva.
Yeah.
And through Dharma Seva, Dharma is protecting me. And we should understand why we should do Dharma Seva. We should not do Dharma Seva because we are born into a certain framework. We should do Dharma Seva because Dharma addresses the essential questions of life. Why are we here? How do we have relationships? How do we navigate the challenges that come through? How do I deal with anxiety? How do I keep focused on my goal? How do I deal with heartbreak? All of these things are addressed by Dharma And at each level in addressing it, it lifts our perspective. Dharma is something that is not just spoken in the piece of this podcast studio. It is not just spoken of in the quietude of the Himalayas, in the serenity of an ashram in the forest. No, Dharma is something that serves us even on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where horses are neighing, elephants are trumpeting, conches are blowing, swords are rattling. In the middle of all of that, Arjuna can completely break down and surrender to Bhagwan, and Bhagwan will deliver the message of Dharma. That Dharma will serve him, not just in that battle, but continues to serve us in the battles of our lives 5,000 years later.
Yeah. You know, I've had a blessed experience doing this show in general, this episode included, but I've had Palgar Rinpoche who spoke about Buddhist thought. I've not had a Jain monk yet. The intention is to have a Jain monk, but I've discussed Jainism with some of my Jain friends. I've had some Sikhi experts.
Mhm.
These are all Indic religions. They originated out of our land. I personally feel in so many ways they're all connected to each other so deeply. Of course, currently there are political differences, etc. The masses often look at it as you versus me. I'm not saying all of the masses, but sections of the masses want to fight more than they want to build bridges. But in truth, the Indic religions are all deeply connected to each other.
Yeah.
There's deep brotherhood.
There is a great Jain master by the name of Shri Rakesh Bhai Zaveri, who is based in Mumbai. He speaks in Gujarati. In his pravachans, obviously he can speak English and he's a very erudite speaker in English as well. But his pravachans on the Bhagavad Gita, on Narada Bhakti Sutra, on Ashtavakra Gita, on Bhaja Govindam have helped me understand Hindu texts deeply. And actually, I used to listen to his talks on Narada Bhakti Sutra, for example. Then I used to go and read my Guru Swami Chinmayananda's commentary, and they were the same. Yeah. So yes, there are doctrinary differences. I'll give you one example. This bell that we have here. This is a Buddhist bell, right? It's a Tibetan Buddhist bell. And what is a distinguishing feature of this bell is that there is a space over here in the middle, right? There are spaces over here. This represents shunyata, absence. In Hinduism, we will, even though it's a beautifully created bell and it has a lovely sound, we would not use this for puja. Why? Because we don't believe in shunyata. That shunyata we see as purnata. That where there is nothing, there is the possibility of everything. Now, very narrow spiritual difference, but an important spiritual difference, right? Does that stop us having this over here? Does that stop us appreciating its beauty? Does that stop us having a meditative experience when whoever gifted this to, I think it's Palgar Rinpoche, when he uses it in his worship? No, we see that beauty. And one of the things that all spiritualists must bear in mind is that the goal of our spirituality is to overcome our ego, not to create a new ego that I'm a spiritual person. And it's a very sharp razor's edge to walk. Because the moment we start to say, I am spiritual, we are in danger of losing ourselves. And I'll tell you this from personal experience. There was a period of 3 or 4 days after a long period of meditation where I came out of that period of meditation, came back to Mumbai, came back into the city environment. And for whatever reason, I started using the phrase, I am a creator with regards to the work that I do on YouTube, the seva that I do on YouTube. And immediately, my entire focus it was like someone pulled a plug and everything just drained out. Why? Because I used to always use the phrase, I am a seeker. The point of doing this is to seek and to continue seeking. I am not even I wouldn't even say I am a teacher. Definitely not a creator. I am a seeker and I am seeking in public. And all of us as spiritualists must bear in mind and really walk this path so that we don't create a new spiritual ego, because that will get so close to the finish line and hold ourselves back from crossing it.
So these are playlists made especially for you. We've tailor-made learning experiences for you on TRS Clips.